G'day guys and gal. Power scaling is something that lurks within all fantasy and sci-fi settings. How many X does it take to kill Y? Which of these two anime protagonists are stronger? When Goku hits a fat Zenkai then goes Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan Kaioken times 20, what is his power level? 40k, despite not being an anime, still has power levels and scaling discussed frequently by the fandom, even if those particular words aren't used. How powerful is a Space Marine, Custodian, Primarch, or the Emperor? Is there a direct calculation? Is it 10 Space Marines per Custodian on average? Does that then make it 10 Custodians to take down a Primarch? Unfortunately, the Warhammer writers rarely agree on the specifics, but we do actually have enough information to accurately determine the rough scaling of each of the main unit types in Warhammer 40k. Before we get started, I'm gonna blue ball you a bit, because I'm about to give you a bit of a tease. I know you like that shit. 2 days from now, so the 2nd of August, I will be releasing my next magnum opus on Major Minis, a mini to rival the Big E itself. I worked with one of, if not the greatest modelers on the planet, like a multi-award winning modeler, to create an obscenely awesome model. I'm not going to tell you what it is yet, but as a teaser, he's basically the boogeyman to all heretics and traitors. The model launch will be limited. This won't be a permanent addition to the range, and you'll never be able to get the STL or anything after the launch, so if you're a curious George, tune into the video on Friday to see what is in store. Today we'll go over the power scaling of Warhammer 40k to determine how it works and how each unit scales to the others. Let's get into it. Context is pretty important when discussing power scaling in 40k. A Space Marine is more powerful than a Guardsman, but that doesn't guarantee a Space Marine will beat a Guardsman. There have been multiple instances in the lore where due to luck, the element of surprise, or just straight up skill, a Guardsman has slain a Space Marine. Whether it be a plasma gun blasts that open up an ambush, or in a rare circumstance, a Guardsman just straight up outskills the Space Marine and overcomes them. Generally, that's more of a named captain unit rather than a rank and file, but it does happen. Likewise, a Custodian who gets ambushed by a squad of Space Marines may only find themselves killing 1 or 2 of them before getting taken down, opposed to the few dozen or more that they generally can do. So while we do need to keep context in mind, we also shouldn't let it bog us down and be like, well, a Custodian is only worth 3 Space Marines because in this scene in the lore he only killed 3 before they got him. Likewise, we shouldn't go all the way to the other side of it and be like, Ra Endymion killed like 1,000 Space Marines and a shitload of demons during the war in the Webway, so a Custodian is worth 1,000 Space Marines. Basically, don't get caught up in the outliers. Ra was second only to Constantine Valdo in regards to power, and when Custodes first started being discussed in the lore, a lot of writers didn't actually think they were that powerful. So starting at the bottom, no, not the Guardsmen, the Planetary Defense Force. Those soldiers who act as a world's garrison, but weren't good enough to be chosen to be Guardsmen. These are the true cannon fodder of the Imperium, but that doesn't mean they are shit or useless. The PDF is comparable to modern day militaries, trained and disciplined, but isn't full of crackshot snipers or unbreakable heroes. They are effective in suppressing Genestealer cults, chaos cults, or even minor chaos incursions, but anything more than that and they need off-world reinforcements. They are definitely presented as chaff in the lore, getting mowed down either by the protagonists or the antagonists. A few of them stand out, but those are outliers. See, Guardsmen are more like the Navy SEALs or Special Forces. That's why they go off-world and are thrown at the horrors of the galaxy. PDF are garrison troops. A squad of Guardsmen would shred through multiple squads of PDF and have done so in the lore before. After all, Traitor PDF and Traitor Guardsmen do exist. The Guardsmen have better morale, better accuracy, and better gear. Special Forces versus standard military. It's hard to put down an exact power ratio or number as they fight in squads, but I'd say in a drawn out engagement, a Guardsman would take out about 5 or so PDF before getting done in. Speaking of Guardsmen, they are looked down on by so many others, yet they do most of the Imperium's heavy lifting. 1 million loyalist Space Marines in an entire galaxy with 1 million Imperial worlds is not that many in relative terms. 99% of battles and wars are fought and won by Guardsmen. They have defeated Tyranids, Orcs, Eldar, Necrons, Tau, and yes, even Chaos Space Marines. But they do die a lot in the process. It's also important to note that not all Guardsmen regiments are made equal or even close to equal. Some Guardsmen regiments are taken from pretty chill civilized worlds where the quality of life is good. They aren't bad, but compared to let's say the Cadians, who know how to clean a rifle before they can walk, or Kriegsmen, who are vat-grown clones that are bred for war, they just don't compare. It generally goes something like this. A Guardsman can usually trade 1-to-1 with standard Orcs, Tyranid Gaunts, and Tau Fire Warriors. However, Eldar Guardians are a level above them due to their agility, better tech, centuries of experience, and so on. Space Marines often remark that despite being notably more powerful and durable than the Eldar, they cannot match the Eldar's speed, which is why the Eldar, like the striking Scorpions, are known to kill Space Marines quite readily. But I know what you want to know. What is the power scaling of a Guardsman Guardsman compared to a Space Marine. In an open field, it's actually a pretty good trade. When the Night Lords attacked Sotha, the Guardsman forces on the planet actually traded very well with the Night Lords, catching them in kill zones and ambushes quite regularly due to the arrogance of the Night Lords. The kill ratio was close to 1-to-1, as the Guardsmen use heavy bolters to even the odds. However, in other contexts, like the Night Lords boarding an Imperial ship, a single squad of Night Lords was able to rampage through the ship, killing a shitload of Imperial soldiers before breaking through onto the bridge and massacring everyone there as well. So a single squad of Night Lords will either get cut down in a kill zone by Guardsmen or manage to take out a starship. Space Marines thrive by using their size, speed, and power to terrorize the enemy and close the gap with them. That same bulk becomes a disadvantage in an open field, where they become quite large targets. As a general rule of thumb though, a properly armed squad of Guardsmen, which includes at least one heavy weapon such as a bolt pistol, plasma gun, melter gun, or so on, should trade for at least one Space Marine. A general kill ratio of 10 to 12 Guardsmen for one Space Marine is appropriate, with Rogel Dawn himself even saying, "Give me 100 Astartes, or 1,000 other men," showing that he saw the ratio at 10-to-1. Librarians, named characters, Terminators, and so on definitely skew that ratio, with some Space Marines even getting up to being worth 1 million or more Guardsmen, like Cain the Betrayer, but once again, we are fucking those outliers right off. With that in mind, how does a Space Marine scale to other factions' elite warriors? Space Marines will destroy Orcs pretty hard, but Orcs still have the strength to rip Space Marines open like tin cans, so a war between the two will result in some Astarte deaths. A 10-to-1 ratio doesn't seem too far off for them either. For Necrons, it's a bit closer. As seen in the 9th edition trailer, although a Space Marine will smash through Necrons, their Gauss blasters do often overwhelm and take down Space Marines. A ratio of 5-to-1 makes sense for that. For the Tau, either they will pop a Space Marine from 5 kilometers away, or watch a Space Marine rip 100 Fire Warriors to shreds. The two factions' battle doctrines are so alien from each other that it's very difficult to pinpoint a ratio because the context is so important. Battle suits are basically the Tau version of a Space Marine, and it would be easy to say that's about a 1-to-1 kill ratio. Sometimes battle suits obliterate Astartes, other times Astartes rip battle suits limb from limb. It does get interesting when you pit Space Marines against Guardsmen Special Forces. See, most las guns just ping off Astarte armor, but Hell guns cut through them, with Guardsmen Special Forces being so disciplined and elite that we don't actually have anything in real life to compare them to. Lore that features Guardsmen Special Forces will show them having a kill ratio of nearly 1-to-1 with Space Marines, but to be realistic and safe, I'd say it's probably more 2 to 3-to-1 in favor of the Space Marine. Against the Eldar Aspect Warriors, a Space Marine kill ratio is around 1-to-1. When Fulgrim and his elite Phoenix Guard fought against Eldrad and his warriors, sure the Emperor's Children won, but every Phoenix Guard was killed. Likewise, Howling Banshees and Striking Scorpions will generally beat a Space Marine in a 1v1 melee duel. Space Marines do pack more of a punch though, so it gets evened out nicely. Against the Nids, Space Marines will crush Gaunts and even body Tyranid warriors on most occasions. However, the bigger boys can fuck Space Marines pretty hard, with multiple scenes featuring Gene Stealers popping open Terminators like a can of tuna. Due to the diversity of Nid forms, I can't really give a ratio here though. Let's get to the spicy end of the stick now, one of the most hotly debated topics in 40k lore. What is the power scaling of a Custodian Guard, especially compared to a Space Marine? The Custodian Guard are notably better, especially when the GW writers actually had a group huddle and sorted out their inconsistent lore. During the fall of Prospero, when the Custodes went up against the Sekhmet, which is the Terminator elite of the Thousand Sun Legion, they traded at 4 Sekhmet for 1 Custodi. But then when the Sisters of Silence got involved, which stopped the Sekhmet from using warp powers, the ratio became 12-to-1. Pretty insane considering the Sekhmet were the best of the best in Terminator armor. During the war in the Webway, the Custodes numbered less than 10,000, yet were able to kill millions of demons and many thousands of Space Marines. It's shown as almost child's play when they fight enemy Astartes, cutting through them like butter despite each Custodi being pushed beyond exhaustion after fighting non-stop with no rest for days on end. Another example is when 7 Custodes fight 10 Minotaurs. All 10 Minotaurs are slain at the cost of 1 Custodi. However, it's shown to be a tough fight due to the ruthlessness of the Minotaurs, a chapter that is considered to be a league above most other Space Marines. But let me now flip that coin and show when Space Marines got the upper hand on Custodes. Nathaniel Garrow and a Custodian had a sparring match, and while the Custodian Guard was better, Garrow won by feeding into the Custodian's arrogance and then surprising him. This was Garrow though, one of the best swordsmen in the galaxy and a veteran of 200 years against a pretty no-name Custodian, and while Garrow did win, if the Custodian took him seriously it would have ended very differently. That same Custodian would then be ambushed by traitor White Scars and killed, only taking out 1 or 2 before they gunned him down. In a fight between 11 Galvorback, the half-demon elite of the Wordbearers, and 3 wounded Custodians, the Custodians killed 6 of the Galvorback before they were slain. There are many other instances of Custodians and Space Marines fighting in the lore, but the results are in the same ballpark. In a fair fair fight to the death of a standard custodian versus standard space marine, the ratio is about 10 to 20 space marines for one custodian, which actually makes sense as it gives the 10,000 custodians the strength of a space marine legion, which numbered from 100 to 250,000 marines. But dialing this up even further, how do the custodians scale to Primarchs? Well, it's a tough one as there hasn't been many examples of custodians against Primarchs in the lore. Dawn says he could bash 2 of them, to which they responded he was welcome to try. Gilliman has a small bodyguard of custodians who are secretly tasked with killing him if he turns traitor, but they are unsure if they could actually manage it. Primarchs have definitely had issues with space marines before, such as Gilliman getting ambushed by the Alpha Legion assassins, Vulcan getting piled on during the Dropsite massacre, and so on. So if you multiply that with the 10 to 20 power ratio increase, then I genuinely think that 10 custodian guard on a good day could take out a Primarch. However, I also believe that a Primarch is more than 10 times more powerful than a custodian, but a 10-man squad of custodians is greater than the sum of their parts. If 3 to 4 of the custodians engage in melee with the Primarch simultaneously while the remainder shoot at him, I really don't see the Primarch surviving. Maybe Magnus with his bullshit hacks, but add in a Sister of Silence or 2 and suddenly that doesn't count for shit. The Emperor sent 20 custodians to watch over Lorgar and kill him if he became a heretic, so maybe that is the magic number, but that also likely takes into account Lorgar's bodyguards and a few extra to be sure. The Emperor would know best. I'm confident that 10 to 20 standard custodians could kill a Primarch or 5 to 10 elite custodians, such as the Alaris or Wardens. Custodians outscale all other unit types from all other factions by a huge margin, unless they're Harlequins, I suppose. At the end of the day, this isn't Dragon Ball Z. There isn't a perfect ratio with situations changing each result. However, I am confident the above scalings give a rough idea how much more powerful each unit type is above the rest. If you enjoyed the video and you want to support the channel, then subscribe. It's free, easy, and we are so close to 600k it actually hurts. End my suffering. Join the Discord for more memes and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.